Welcome to this explainer. Today we are diving deep into a universal, everyday struggle that literally every single one of us faces, and that's trying to find the willpower to do hard things. I mean, whether it's tackling some massive project, trying to get into shape, or just, handling the daily grind, we have all stared at a task and felt completely drained. But today, we're going to fundamentally change how you view that struggle by looking at the hard biological science of human tenacity.
So let's start with a scenario I'm pretty sure we can all relate to. Have you ever found yourself negotiating with your alarm clock? You know exactly what I'm talking about. The alarm goes off, it's pitch black outside, and suddenly you become a world-class defense attorney inside your own head. You start making these desperate, elaborate deals with the snooze button just to steal like 9 more minutes of sleep, convincing yourself you'll somehow work twice as fast later. It's a hilarious, deeply relatable routine, but it actually reveals a fascinating battle happening right there inside your mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the willpower myth.
So what's actually happening in your brain during that early morning snooze negotiation is incredibly revealing. And to understand it, we really need to shift how we think willpower actually works. First up, we have to completely shatter a very common myth. You see, most people believe willpower is just something you're born with, kind of like having blue eyes or being naturally good at music. The assumption is that some lucky people out there are just innately gifted with this strong, unbreakable will, while the rest of us are, just naturally lazy or unmotivated. But the reality? Willpower is absolutely not a talent you are born with. It is not a fixed trait.
Which brings us to Section 2, Meet the aMCC.
To really grasp this, we have to look at an incredible, highly tangible neuroscience discovery. Say hello to the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or, thankfully, the aMCC for short. Now, this is a physical brain structure. We are not talking about some vague psychological concept here. We are talking about tangible, physical biology. Scientists are increasingly recognizing the aMCC as the actual seat of the will to live itself. Think of it like this. It functions exactly like a muscle inside your brain. A muscle that specifically governs your drive, your discipline, and your overall resilience.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the power of friction.
And this brilliantly illustrates the big question. If the aMC is a muscle, how exactly do we work it out? Well, it comes down to a completely counterintuitive mechanic. Imagine a guy lifting super heavy weights at the gym. It's a hard task, right? But here's the catch. If he actually loves going to the gym, there is zero aMC growth. None. Now take that exact same guy and force him into a freezing cold ice bath, something he absolutely hates. That miserable, incredibly uncomfortable experience, that causes massive aMC growth. The ultimate aha moment here is that the physical structure of your brain only changes when you engage in tasks you genuinely do not want to do.
To really drive home the reality of this science, look at the remarkable story of Sarah Sterling. Sarah transitioned from a background of complete physical paralysis, facing absolutely intense physical and mental adversity, to becoming a leading voice in high-performance psychology and an elite ultramarathon runner. I mean, talk about a transformation. She is literal living proof of neuroplasticity and the human ability to completely rebuild your willpower right from the ground up.
So how did she make such an impossible leap? Well, she has a great name for it, leaning into the suck. Sarah didn't just start off as this unstoppable powerhouse. She built her aMC by intentionally seeking out the very things she dreaded most. She actively embraced the friction of a difficult task exactly when every single voice in her head was screaming no. She essentially proved that actively suffering through unwanted tasks is the actual biological mechanism for growth.
Now for Section 4, rebuilding your reservoir.
All right, so we've covered the foundational science, and we've seen the incredible human proof. Now let's look at a concrete, science-backed playbook for actively rebuilding your own willpower reservoir from scratch. It really boils down to 2 clear actions. Step 1, seek friction. Step 2, master internal dialogue. Let's unpack exactly what these mean for your everyday routine. The single most important behavioral shift you can make right now is this. Stop passive consumption. Start using verbs. You can watch self-improvement content, read all the books, and listen to experts all day long. But passive consumption simply does not build your aMCC. To grow that specific brain structure, you have to execute daily verbs. You have to take actual physical actions that cause genuine, uncomfortable friction in your life. And honestly, the best part is,
Seeking friction doesn't mean you have to go out and run a 100-mile race tomorrow. It can be incredibly practical. Seriously, go clean that dark cupboard you've been avoiding. We all have that one messy closet, that one dreaded email, or that one difficult household chore we keep putting off. When you force yourself to do a totally mundane task that you genuinely do not want to do, you are effectively spit-shining your willpower structure. It's the friction itself, not the grand scale of the task, that matters.
Which brings us perfectly to step 2, mastering your internal dialogue. Sarah Sterling uses a phenomenal phrase for this: outwork the voice. When she was rebuilding her life, there were days she had to literally lace up her running shoes while physically limping. Her mind was constantly telling her she was too tired, she was too broken, or that she was a failure. But she learned to entirely ignore that automatic voice by simply outworking it with raw action.
To outwork the voice, you really have to understand the battle happening in your head. We all have the first voice. This is that automatic reflex that throws up excuses, tells you how tired you are, and fills you with self-doubt. Now, you cannot stop that first voice. It's going to happen. But what you absolutely must do is actively create the second voice. This is your real-time counter dialogue. You have to systematically argue back and defeat your automatic excuses the moment they pop up.
When building that second voice, Sarah's strategy was super fascinating. She fueled her forward motion with the stick of past failures rather than the carrot of reward. Think about that. She wasn't looking around for positive reinforcement, applause, or a little treat for doing a good job. Instead, she literally weaponized the painful memory of her past failures to relentlessly and violently drive herself forward through the friction. It's intense, but incredibly effective.
Which leads us to section 5, the unseen work.
So the crucial point is, I need to deliver a very stark warning about the daily maintenance required for this biological superpower. Willpower is a perishable skill. Just let that sink in for a second. It is not a permanent upgrade. If you do the hard work, build up your aMCC, and then decide to just coast and stop seeking friction, your anterior mid-cingulate cortex will literally begin to shrink again. If you don't use it, you quite biologically lose it.
Because willpower is perishable, keeping your reservoir full demands what researchers call the no days off rationale. You cannot just do one really hard thing, like finishing a massive work project, and then expect to be permanently disciplined for the rest of your life. The aMCC requires constant, daily upkeep. This growth happens entirely through the unseen work. It requires a continuous commitment to tackling tasks alone in the dark, doing the hard things that absolutely no one else will ever clap for.
I know that might sound a bit heavy, but honestly, it should be incredibly empowering. The medicine cabinet you need is already inside you. You don't need to go buy a special program or hope you inherited lucky genetics. You already possess the exact biological tools required to heal, to grow, and to entirely reclaim your agency over your own life. You simply have to be willing to open that cabinet by willingly engaging with friction.
That brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I want to leave you with a very direct, provocative challenge. What is the one verb you will tackle today? You know exactly what that one avoided task is. In fact, it probably popped into your head a few minutes ago while we were talking. I am challenging you right now, stop passively consuming content. Go find that friction and do the work. Your brain is literally waiting to grow. See you next time.